At the age of 15, Carly Fairhurst fell in love with her pen pal. But the dark taboo is he's a convicted killer, serving a sentence for manslaughter. It was a fatal attraction, and 4 years later, she was dead, killed by the man she loved. Britain's Darkest Taboos reveals the shocking, real stories behind the most horrific acts of familial crime, including prostitution.
Kirsty was two people. As soon as she'd finished her shift in the parlour, she became the girl next door.
Murder.
He systematically, one by one, killed them.
It was a tale of true horror.
And incest.
I did your daddy raped Peter.
I was 12 and I just found out I was carrying my brother's baby.
Carly Fairhurst was born in 1986 in Hindley, Wigan, to parents Trevor and Sheila.
She was a beautiful baby. She was a proper sensitive little girl, you know. She had a lot of feeling and a lot of love. And
she loved animals. She used to have a little pet bee in a box. She charmed the birds out of the trees.
She had a cat of her own and a dog, and she loved them. She was a proper animal-loving little girl and very happy little girl. She was so happy, you know, got my little family and a boy and a girl. You couldn't ask for any more, and they were both lovely, sweet little children. She had a larger brother, you know. They used to play together all the time.
Carly enjoys school and is a high achiever. She's also popular with her peers.
We met in year 9 in high school, in cooking. I started seeing her brother, and then from then on we just got really, really close.
She was my best friend. We had such a laugh. Any problems I had, it's her that I'd speak to. She was a very fun-loving person, obsessed with her hair and her makeup and clothes, and she was just, I think she just loved life in general. Anything at all that was exciting, she wanted to do it.
Carly has a special bond with her mum, Sheila.
She was really close with her mum, because they're into exactly the same they're exactly the same, with the hair and the makeup and going out and having a laugh and stuff, and she loved her mum to bits. It was a lot closer than a normal family. Sheila and Trevor were always there. They're like one of the best families you can imagine.
They didn't hide anything from each other. She had no secrets from her mum at all.
But Carly's close relationship with her mum is about to be tested to the limit. She drops a bombshell.
When she was about 15, she came home this particular day and said, I'm going to be a pen friend. I said, who to? She got right to Pilky. Well, he had a reputation from the age of 10, and, you know, I said, no way, you're not writing to him.
It's every mother's worst nightmare. Darren Pilkington is one of the most notorious young offenders in Wigan. Pilkington is serving a 4-year sentence for the manslaughter of Paul Acaster after he and his brother Andrew killed him in a fight in November 2000.
It'd been a street fight. I never heard of fighting like this. I didn't even know fighting like that existed, with this stamp on people's heads, and they were jumping on his chest. How can somebody do that to another person? And they're supposed to be one of the friends.
Forensic psychologist Dr Keri Nixon works with Merseyside Police, assessing risk factors in serious violent offenders, and she's been looking into Pilkington's background.
He's off the chart in terms of risk. I mean, he's classed as a very high-risk offender. And part of that is the level of violence that he exhibited during the manslaughter.
I knew that the guy had killed someone before, but you don't think that your daughter will strike up a relationship with someone like that.
She said, but Mum, it's only pen friends. You need somebody to write to. I said, you're not Carly, you don't know where it'll end that.
When we look at violent offenders in relation to domestic abuse offenders, if somebody has a previous history of violence, that makes them more risky.
Although Pilkington is a convicted killer, he is also a friend of her brother Michael. Carly wants to give Pilkington a chance. And she isn't the only one of her friends writing to someone in prison.
A lot of the lads that we hung about with ended up going to prison. And it was just a thing for girls to do, to write to them. Nothing usually ever happened, it did just sort of fizzle out. They had a lot of girls writing to him. And she decided to write to Darren.
According to Carly's friends, it was her kind nature and her ability to see the best in people that led her to write to Pilkington.
She did see the good side in everybody, no matter what they were like, what they'd done. If she thought they was all right, she'd be friends with them.
I think Carly wanted to give Darren a chance to see if maybe she could make him better.
Carly was a caring person and a loving person. He was just totally the opposite. Always in trouble.
For Carly's parents, their daughter writing to a killer is too much to bear.
A lot of her friends at that time were going through a stage where they only like bad boys and, you know, I suppose it was like a status symbol, I don't know. I think that was the attraction with him, and I just wish it had never happened.
The attraction of a bad boy, the peer pressure from friends, and the belief that there is good in Pilkington means Carly puts her family's fears aside and soon becomes infatuated with her pen pal. But would this tale of forbidden love have a happy ending?
He said, I love your daughter, Mrs. Fairhurst, I love her. And I thought, oh, this is it. He does actually care about her. He does love her.
Carly rang me and she just said, can I come to your house? So she had teeth marks in the side of her nose.
Trevor had hold of me and his arm round her, and Michael were in the other side and held her. And I kept telling her, you're going to be all right, you're not going to hurt anymore.
Carly Fairhurst had a happy childhood. Then at 15, she stunned her parents when she told them she was going to be a pen pal to convicted killer Darren Pilkington.
It was like the main focus point of her day-to-day life was him, waiting to hear off him. She was writing a lot of letters, sending a lot of photos. If we went out, it was always, she was very camera happy.
Pilkington showed a loving and caring side in his letters, and Carly is falling in love with her pen pal.
The things that he said to her made her feel like a princess. It would do any girl. If that was me and I read that, I'd think exactly the same. You wouldn't think, you'd feel like that this man's going to take care of me.
But for psychologist Emma Kenny, a family and relationships expert, Carly's dreams are not based on reality.
The problem when you are writing letters is this. You feel very engaged in the process. But actually it's all about you having the experience with the letter writing process. You don't really get to know the person that you're writing to. So the picture that she was building up about the man that she was writing to was something that she was creating in her own mind and not the reality of the man who was waiting in a cell.
After a few months of letter writing without her parents' knowledge, Carly starts receiving phone calls from prison.
I remember being at her house one night to stop over, and she was sat at the bottom of the stairs where the phone was. And she said, he'll be ringing me soon, and my mum will go mad if she finds out. And he rang her and she was all excited and giggly on the phone and stuff. Very, very exciting for her. Loved speaking to him. Anything to do with Darren, that was all it was about, was Darren.
And he's got this window of opportunity here, where he's in prison and he's got nothing else that he can do. So he's got the attention of Carly, and he can woo her and present this facade And he's got that time to seduce Carly from inside prison.
It makes her feel wanted, approved of, needed, important. These are very heady experiences for any teenager at a point where her development is so becoming a young woman.
With Pilkington declaring his undying love for Carly in the letters, her friends realise she has fallen for him.
She's kind of fell in love with him just through the letter stage, you know what I mean? Not even actual facing contact. I was thinking to myself, like, you don't want me getting involved with somebody like that. But how could I tell her that, you know what I mean? It's her choice who she gets involved with.
15 years of age, you're not thinking about the long-term consequences, you're feeling the immediate gratification. And if somebody's being incredibly nice to you, you can't help but be moved by that.
Carly's mum, Sheila, is unaware of her daughter's feelings toward Pilkington.
We thought, it's got to fizzle out. She's only 15, she's growing up, she's not experienced life. It could fizzle out, nothing can come of it. And then she started receiving letters with SWALK on the back, and I thought, this is not a friendship, this is something a little bit more. I'm sad to say, but I'm glad I did it. I steamed it open, and I realised that he was declaring what he felt for her, so she'd been doing with him.
Sheila told me, and I hit the roof, and I had an argument with Carly again over it, but it made no difference.
She denied it at first, and then she just said, yeah, I love him.
Carly and Pilkington are now a couple. She promises to wait for him on the outside and dedicated all her time to her now boyfriend.
Friday night, Saturday night, that's all she did. Stop in her room, watch TV and write letters.
Like two star-crossed lovers, Carly and Pilkington took any opportunity they could to have contact with each other.
We used to go down, like, where Carly lived. It was like a long track, the old railway. If you walked down there, the prison used to be there. Just straight over, and we could be there for an hour, 2 hours at a time sometimes. Shouting for Darren. I did think it was mad what she was doing, but she's just a girl, wasn't she? She liked a lad who was in jail.
In fact, this is a case of forbidden love, and many young people are very attracted to situations that they feel they shouldn't be in or that they can change for the better. It's a heady mix of emotions, and on both sides there is a passion and an obsession that is clear.
To the despair of her parents, a headstrong, love-struck Carly starts visiting Pilkington in prison.
On one particular occasion, I went, she introduced me to him. I remember sitting in the waiting area while she went in first to tell him that I'd come with her, and I thought, what's she seeing in that? What's she seeing in? And she took me and said, introduced us, and I thought, well, it fizzled out.
But the relationship doesn't fizzle out, and Sheila's worst fears come true.
Carly stopped seeing her friends, stopped going out, withdrew to her room for long periods of time, stopped engaging with the family as she had done before, and instead concentrated all her focus and efforts on having this relationship.
There was a lot of people that was scared of Darren and his reputation. As soon as they heard that Carly had got with Darren, they didn't want to be too close to Carly in a way. And I don't think Carly wanted to have her mates involved with her while she was involved with him.
I think the fact that her friends started to pull away from her, as well as her isolating herself from her friends, is very indicative of how people were in fear of Pilkington, which adds to the risk. If he can be violent to everybody. He's much more likely to be violent to anybody who gets in his way.
After 18 months of writing to each other, to Carly's delight, Pilkington is released from jail after serving only 2 years of a 4-year sentence for manslaughter. Carly's parents decide to trust their daughter's judgment and give Pilkington another chance.
That day, they were going up and meeting their friends up the street, and I walked down with them. And he had his arm round her, and he was cuddling her and kissing her, and he said, "I love your daughter, Mrs. Fairhurst, I love her." And I thought, oh, this is it. He does actually care about her. He does love her.
Whilst no parent wants their child to live with a killer, the truth is that people have done things and regretted them hugely and actually transformed their lives because of them. As far as Trevor and Sheila were concerned, they trusted their daughter. They trusted her choices. She had made good choices before. This was just taking it one step further and trusting her choice in a partner, giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Pilkington appears to be a changed man.
He seemed that he wanted to be with her. He seemed that he loved her at the time, but obviously he didn't because of his actions.
Pilkington promises Carly a new start, and at just 17 years old, she moves in with him. But Pilkington soon breaks his promises. After spending almost 2 years saving herself for him, Carly is devastated when he starts cheating on her with other women.
I was thinking it was 2 weeks that he'd been on the outside. That's when the behaviour started happening. He would go off and leave her and mess about with girls and come back and tell her about it.
For Dr Keri Nixon, Pilkington's cheating is a way of exerting control over Carly.
He was engaging in cheating behaviour, infidelity, but letting her know about it. Again, almost showing off to himself and those around him at how much he was in control of Carly, that he could get away with this type of behaviour and she was still there for him.
As well as cheating on her, Pilkington demeans Carly in public.
It's another level of control. It's another way of making her feel bad about herself, demeaning her, and the more that he puts her down, the more he is in control of her. And the more low self-esteem she has, the easier it is for him to control her.
Popular Carly, who previously surrounded herself with friends, now prefers to spend all her time with Pilkington.
She wouldn't go out that much. She wouldn't meet up with her friends like she used to. She only came to see me, I think it was 3 times, while she was with him. It all seemed very odd because she's never ever been away from her friends before. It's always been her friends come first.
Her self-esteem would slowly and gradually be being eroded. Her confidence levels would be dropping. She would be trying to seek desperately the man that she had once recognised in those letters. As her self-esteem level is changed and becomes lower and lower, the likelihood of his power growing over her becomes bigger and bigger. That's the reality in these abusive situations. The more power he takes, the less power she holds.
Is the man Carly fell in love with beginning to show his dark side? Desperate to make it work and still believing she can change him, Carly forgives his infidelity and stays in the relationship. Then she starts picking up injuries, but refuses to blame her boyfriend.
And I said, "Carly, what's that bruise on your arm?" And she said, "Oh, I fell over or banged it or whatever." And then she'd come home and her arm had been a sling, and I'd say, "What have you done that?" "Oh, I fell over when I was up King Street," and then fingers were strapped together, numerous things, and I just believed her. I honestly thought she would have told us.
Every dad's worried about his daughter, isn't he? But looking back, I should have been a lot more worried than what I thought I was at the time.
The question for psychologist Emma Kenny is, why would Carly suffer in silence?
She'd given up a great deal to be with him. People's expectations were that this relationship will fail, and she had this amazing 2 years of writing to a man that she'd fell in love with, who'd been kind and charming to her. The reality of who he was versus her beliefs of who he was are at such polarities that she has to believe she can change him because he's not the guy she used to know.
Pilkington's violent control over Carly does show itself when Carly has a rare night out with best mate Sian.
We'd been out to a pub in Wigan and she was all dressed up like usual with all the makeup on, her hair nice. And I just remember him coming upstairs in the pub and starting to scream at her and telling her that she shouldn't be out and he wanted to get home, and they started arguing and he threw a glass at her and she went after him. And I just thought, she's crazy. After he's done that, why would you go after somebody?
According to Dr Keri Nixon, Pilkington can do no wrong in Carly's eyes.
He's so convinced of her utter devotion to him that he can treat her any way he wants and get away with it. You know, he's managed to manipulate her so successfully that she will sit there, have a glass thrown at her, and he can get away with doing that.
It's around a year after Pilkington's release from prison, and Carly's parents get a worrying phone call.
We got a call from the duty manager of Morrison's saying that your daughter was here and she'd been attacked by a girl or girls. And Carly was in the staff room. All her nose was blooded and all the front of it was full of blood. Next thing, the police arrived and they was interviewing Carly, and we'd not a clue what had gone on.
It came out later that Pilkington had attacked Carly in their flat. But that night she denied it, and together they concocted a story for Sheila.
I said, well, he's done it. He said, some girls came to the door and she said these girls had been saying that they'd been going with him, and Carly had kicked off with him and the girls had hit her.
Carly was trying to protect them. She didn't want them to realise that she was in any distress. And at the same time, Trevor and Sheila trusted their daughter. It's testament to how much they cared for each other that they believed one another's points of view.
But their trust in their daughter was based on lies. Carly's relationship with Pilkington was a far cry from the fairy tale he promised her in the letters 2 years earlier. His violence appears to be escalating, and he attacks her again, this time in a public place.
Carly rang me and she just said, can I come to your house? And I said, well, what's the matter? And she said, Darren's ran my head into a hand dryer and he's bitten my nose. So I said, yeah, come straight away. She was crying her eyes out. She was devastated. So she had teeth marks inside of her nose when she got to my house. And the pub was, I'd say, a 10-minute walk from my house. So for the bite marks still to be in her nose, he must have bitten hard. For the bite marks to still be there, to still be quite deep. And she came up and she had like a bruise on her head. And she just said to me, we promise, please don't tell her, Mike. So I promised, and I never did. I never told us all.
For Carly to admit she's a victim of domestic abuse is her darkest taboo. And Dr Keri Nixon believes her and Pilkington's relationship is hurtling towards a violent and tragic conclusion.
He bites her face. He gives her bloody noses. He's throwing glasses at her. High levels of violence. And throughout all of that, she doesn't report it, and she continues to lie for him. So that would have continued. That wasn't going to stop. That would have only continued, and it would have got worse. And it was a potential homicide waiting to happen.
They ended up in an argument at the top of the stairs. He said Carly ran at him. He tried to fend her off and slapped her, and she ended up losing her balance and falling downstairs.
If I'd conducted a risk assessment, he would have been at very high risk of killing Carly.
Her eyes were just black and she was staring straight up.
For 19-year-old Carly Fairhurst, her teenage romance had turned into a nightmare. According to friends, the man of Carly's dreams, convicted killer Darren Pilkington, is now abusing her, and the violence is escalating.
What we can definitely say is whilst the violence didn't end, there was always a chance that he could kill her.
On the 31st of January 2006, just under 2 years after his release from prison for killing his friend, Pilkington and Carly have an argument in a pub, and she returns home alone.
On the night of the attack, she texted me and she said, "Do you want to come down for a drink with your partner? Me and Darren have fell out and I'm in the house on my own." And I didn't have a babysitter, and I explained, "I'm sorry, like, I haven't got anybody to watch my son. I'll try and catch up soon." It was very strange that she contacted me that night and asked me to go around to the house, because I'd never been to anywhere where they lived. I'd only ever seen her at her mum and dad's or out and about, but I just thought if they've had an argument, she must want to talk to somebody.
That was the last time Sian spoke to her friend. The next morning, Carly's parents receive a phone call. It was the call they had feared the moment she started writing to Pilkington less than 4 years earlier.
I answered it and passed it to Sheila because I heard his voice.
It was Pilkington, and he said, "Carly's in the hospital." I said, "What was she done?" He said, I'm not sure what she's done. She had a fight with some girls."
And then Sheila shot up and she said, "Carly's in hospital." So she shot off in the car.
Pilkington, the man of Carly's dreams that had promised to treat her like a princess, had called an ambulance for her that morning.
I got to car park. He was waiting on me. Where have you been? So we go inside, and I said, "Where is she?" So he said, "She's in here," and he just went straight to this door, no respect, went straight to this door, intensive care.
He doesn't care what people think about him. He comes from a background of crime, his criminal activity, previous convictions, a high level of antisocial behaviour.
Sheila's beloved daughter is fighting for her life.
I wasn't prepared for what I would go and see when I got there. I went in and she would just lie on this bed, and she was connected up to all these machines. I've never seen them on TV. I never experienced that before. And she was just lying there. He just said, look at her. What's up with her?" And he went to touch her eyes, and I slapped his hand. I said, Don't do that. She's connected up to all these machines. And I realised, I thought, she's really in a bad way.
The only man that knows what has happened to Carly is Pilkington, and he begins a web of deceit.
We sat in the waiting room, and I said, what happened? He said, "Well, we was out having a drink," he said, "and then we decided to go home." He said, "And then we're walking home together. These girls jumped on her and they started fighting her." He said, "I'll tell you what, she can give as good as she gets." He said, "She didn't half hold her own with these." And I thought, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, Carly's not a fighter." He said, and then we went home. He said, and I was going out with my mate. He said, so I said, "What, you left her at home?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "And she didn't bother about that, because she always wanted to come home." And no, she was all right. And I never thought anything. I just believed him, gullible that I am. And then the police came because she had suspicious circumstances. She had marks around her neck. So they came to arrest him. And was they taking him away? I was sticking up for him. What are you taking? You're thinking, well, she's got to want him as soon as she wakes up.
Pilkington is taken away by police and is sticking to his original story. Carly is transferred to Hope Hospital.
Carly's injuries as a result of what happened to her were some bruising to her brain and some bleeding in her brain as well. With any injury comes subsequent swelling, which increase the pressure within her brain. Associated with her being unconscious for a long period of time, it was thought that she'd probably aspirated or inhaled some of her stomach contents, which had gone into her lungs, which developed into a pneumonia, which then led to multi-organ failure. That, in addition to her brain injuries, were life-threatening, really.
Over the next few days, Carly's family hold a bedside vigil for her, refusing to leave her side, but things go from bad to worse.
They said at one point that they might have to cut the top of her skull to release the pressure on her brain. I went, oh God, that's awful, that was bad. And then I thought, well, if it means that she's going to survive. So we said, we got used to that idea, and then they come back and they said they can't do that because if they did, the pressure was so great in the skull that her brain would just mushroom out and they would never get it back in again. So we're just willing her to survive.
As Carly's situation deteriorates, news of Pilkington's arrest by police is picked up by local reporter Charles Graham, who covered the killing of Paul Akerster 6 years earlier.
Immediately put two and two together and thought, Hindley man, Darren Pilkington, Paul Akerster, he's done it again.
Pilkington continues to lie, but this time, Carly cannot lie for him. It's too late for her to tell the truth.
He came up with so many different stories for different people that it was difficult to know what exactly had happened from the outset. His first account suggested that he'd just come home from being out all night and found her injured at the bottom of the stairs.
That was a made-up story. He misled the 999 operator. Then when the paramedics arrived, after Carly was lying at the bottom of the stairs for 8 hours, he lied to the paramedics as well, telling them the same story. And then he lied to the police.
He did seem to be the prime suspect. There's no evidence to suggest that he had been out all night. And under a certain amount of questioning from detectives, he then said that he had actually been at the house during the night.
He changed his story because he was lying. Looking at the background of Pilkington with his previous offending behaviour, combined with his treatment of Carly and the factors that are in that relationship, if I'd conducted a risk assessment, he would have been a very high risk of killing Carly.
But the truth is about to come out. Under intense questioning from police, Pilkington finally admits he knows what happened to Carly.
After the 4 days of questioning and detention in the local police station, he said that they'd been falling out and they'd ended up in an argument at the top of the stairs. He said Carly ran at him. He tried to fend her off and slapped her, and she ended up losing her balance and falling downstairs. He said fell, not pushed or punched. She was lying at the bottom of the stairs and he thought she was asleep. She went and got a duvet and thrown it over her. And he said he lied down with her for 8 hours. She was bleeding from her ears, her nose and her mouth. And he thought that because she was bleeding, especially from her mouth, that she'd been cleaning her teeth and her gums used to bleed a bit.
He left her for 8 hours at the bottom of the stairs. Things might have been different if she was breathing the contents of her own stomach in while she was lying there. And he says he lied with her.
While Pilkington is charged with assault, Carly continues to fight for her life. For 8 days, her family maintain a bedside vigil, willing her to pull through.
All we could do was massage her legs because of all the pressure made her swell up, you know, the drugs they were giving her.
That morning I knew that Carly was potentially going to die, and I knew that in order for Sheila and Trevor to have any type of closure, I saw it as my role to try and make Carly's dying as a positive experience as I could in order to help them recover.
The nurse Jess, she said, can I touch her? You know, when you're going to turn the machine up. And Trevor said, well, you turn the machines round so we can't see them because we'll be watching for what's happening. So they put them behind the curtain and they sat on the outside. And I said, can I hold her? She said, if you want, you can get in bed with her. So I got in bed with her, put my arm around her. Trevor had hold me and his arm round her, and Michael were in the other side and held her. And I kept telling her, you're going to be all right, you're not going to do anymore. Then this machine just stopped making a noise. Said she's gone. She's died.
You just saw all the life just drained out of her, and she'd gone.
I didn't think she would die. I never thought she'd die.
The evening that we noticed the clock on the wall, there was a pendulum clock, used to keep excellent time. And it was wound up, by the way. It had stopped at 10 to 10, which is the exact minute that Carly died.
It's 8 weeks before Trevor and Sheila are able to bury their beloved daughter.
The day we buried Carly, it had been raining for ages, and then on the day of the funeral, it was a lovely sunny day.
So many people turned up, it was all in the streets. I'd never like to go through that experience again.
It felt wrong, it felt unfair that they should have to be doing this at her age.
As Trevor and Sheila prepare to say their final goodbyes, Carly's friends have some shocking news about what they witnessed in Carly and Pilkington's relationship.
And while we was waiting, we got talking to some of Carly's friends, and they said they needed to speak up, and told us what had gone on. They told us that he'd been abusing her for a couple of years, on and off. They witnessed the fact, and they couldn't say nothing because Carly had sworn them to secrecy. Please don't tell me mum and dad, otherwise my dad'll kick off and cause a big ruckus. And
you try to think of all the incidents that you look back on and you think it was him.
You can imagine her feeling, and we then went over to the grave and we looked in and Sheila collapsed. She collapsed at the graveside. Now I was thinking, why have I not spotted it? The guilt was coming back then. You never think that will happen to one of your own.
And I was thinking, God, I can't wait to get up there.
I wanted him to get 16 to 18 years.
You could see he had no remorse whatsoever, nothing.
And I started screaming at him, "You've killed my baby, you've killed my baby."
In February 2006, 19-year-old Carly Fairhurst died in her mother's arms. 10 months later, her boyfriend Darren Pilkington is about to face trial for her murder.
I thought the one thing I can do for my daughter now is speak up in court, and I'll have my say. I'll defend her, you know, and let people know what he's like.
Personally, I didn't want to see him. No, Sheila did. I just didn't even want to see his face at all. And I wanted him to get 16 to 18 years. That was my expectations of it.
And I was thinking, God, I can't wait, get up there. I can't wait and just say my bit. And while we were sat outside, they adjourned, I think it was for lunch or whatever. When we come back, they said, you're not going to go up. He's pleaded guilty to manslaughter.
When Trevor and Sheila are allowed in court for sentencing, they come face to face with their daughter's killer.
He stood up, and I thought, I just flipped and I started screaming at him. And shouted, you killed my baby, you've killed my baby.
You could see he had no remorse whatsoever, nothing. He just stood there like it was just another court case, just a little burglary or whatever he'd done.
I remember the barrister saying, look, the sentence that he'll be given is an indeterminate sentence, and he'll be given 3 years and 53 days. And I brought it down. I said, is that all she's worth? Is all she's worth to you? 3 years and 53 days. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Just gobsmacked. Just couldn't believe it. So he's not getting a life sentence? He said, unfortunately not.
You know, there's a justice in that. Who are the victims here? Beyond me.
Although he is accountable for Carly's death, Dr Keri Nixon believes Pilkington didn't intend to kill Carly.
I don't think he probably intended to kill her that night, because I think he was quite happy having her adoring him. He set up home with her. He had her doing what he wanted. She was a pretty girl on his arm. She adored him. She probably looked after him. She probably took care of him, made his dinner, etc. I think he was quite enjoying life with Carly and would have carried on in that life for a long time to come, still abusing her. So he probably didn't intend to kill her that night.
Not an hour of the day goes by that I don't think of her. That's all I can say, really.
She was everything. She was my best friend, my little girl. She had an infectious laugh. She was silly as anything. We had the same sense of humour. I miss her music. She used to have little dances. She's my little girl.
In the years since Carly's death, Trevor and Sheila have dedicated their lives to raising awareness of domestic violence. They have raised thousands of pounds for victim support counselling services through the Carly Fund.
Decided to set up the Carly Fund, and we didn't realise how big it would take off.
And in turn that's kept us going, and Carly's not died in vain, and she's helping other people, even though she's not here. And the amount of people you know are suffering from domestic violence, and they put up with it because, well, they think they have to. But there's people out there who'll help, and they just need to ask for it.
If you'd have told me then that they would have gone on to achieve what they've achieved today, I would have said never. Never in a million years, because they were just bereft. But they just used this grief as ammunition to do good for the people. I think it's amazing.
Instead of being driven apart by all of these events, instead, this couple have cemented and furthered their relationship. And Carly would be incredibly proud of the fact that her parents are still together, loving each other and remembering her well. And that's something that Pilkington will never be able to take away from them.
We just stuck together, haven't we? And done it as a team, haven't we? Honestly, he's my rock. I don't know what to do without it. Carly will never be forgotten, and she's helping other people even though she's not here, and she's what Carly would be doing if she was.